the two drives in the second half that looked promising, you have a Logan Diggs fumble on a play that was very close to his progression or his progression being stopped. And kind of an unfortunate fumble. It's hard to blame the kid for that one. And then, but again, it kind of just goes back to Notre Dame's bowl game history or whatever you want to call it, to kind of like an oy vey sort of moment. But, and then obviously they're driving down the field and Cone throws that pick. And it was really outside of a few overthrows and stuff like that, it was really his biggest mistake of the game. And then Oklahoma State toward the end of the game essentially tried to let Notre Dame back into it, or at least give them a chance to do something. They fumbled the ball, like not even on the 1 yard line, like essentially like at the last second. The way you can fumble it is kind of it kind of reminded me of the Sean Crawford fumble a few years back. I think it was against either Michigan or Michigan State. I can't remember exactly who it was, but it kind of felt like that, where it's like, oh, okay, this is the one thing Notre Dame needed to kind of it kind of felt like that. Okay, this is what Notre Dame, this is how they're going to win this game, is that their defense finally made like that one play, and then the offense will get it cooking, and then they go 3 and out, I think, on the very next offensive drive. And then Spencer Sanders fumbles. Yep. Notre Dame has a chance to go and do the same thing again. And I forget if it was a 3 and out on that one, or no, that was when they went for a 4th down. Yeah. Which actually brings to another point. The broadcast mentioned it. I'm sure some fans mentioned it as well. I personally liked the idea of them going for it on 4th and 7 there. I trusted the offense a little bit more to do something versus the defense that had just been cooked all second half. It turns out that maybe we were wrong with the way that the score ended up. Notre Dame's defense was able to kind of stop them those last couple drives and hold them to field goals and so on and so forth. And maybe they would have stopped them and forced a punt. But I think that that's one of those things where hindsight's always 20/20. And, you look back at it, and who knows what Notre Dame's defense would have done when, however that punt would have ended up from Bramblett. And so to me, that was one of those decisions where, you're trying to be aggressive. You're trying to go out and show that your offense or give some faith to your offense and stuff. And yeah, it didn't really bother me as much, but how did you feel about that one?
Yeah. I really can see both because if you punt there, I know it was 2.5 minutes or whatever the situation was and 3 timeouts. That's a for sure. But does Oklahoma State come out and run it 3 times automatically if you punt it right there? I think Oklahoma State was saying basically, all right, we're going to run it 3 times, go up by 2 scores, make Notre Dame use all 3 of their timeouts. And if we happen to pick up a first down, then great. If not, cool. We're still up 2 scores with Notre Dame having no timeouts left. And obviously that was a big thing there. So, I sort of see both sides there. Like I say, I think I probably go for it right there. You were hanging on by a thread at that point. So you really, that's not the play, I guess, that I look back to as like, well, this Notre Dame lost because of this. And I don't think anyone's saying that, but I don't know. It's really a stuck between a rock and a hard place type of a thing. And, I don't know. I don't really know what the right answer is, but like I say, that doesn't really bother me as much as, some of the other stuff coaching wise and decision making wise and not seeing Tyler Buckner and that type of stuff does.
I would have liked to see, and I know we've mentioned this a few times now, one play really sticks out to me. And this is actually when Notre Dame was playing well, and they ended up, I think this was when they either missed the field or when Dorr missed the field goal, or they ended up having one of their drives in the first half that kind of sputtered. There was a 3rd and 2 where I think it was Diggs, kind of. Yep. And I tweeted right afterwards. It was he looked a little bit. One of the biggest strengths he has as a player is his patience. You heard it on the broadcast today. He's very Le'Veon Bell, Arian Foster like in the way that he runs. I'm not comparing him to those 2 guys because they were obviously very terrific, NFL players. But just his style of play is very like that. Maybe even Matt Forte like is kind of the guy I've compared him to in the past with his pass catching ability as well. And I think if he hits the hole there, he probably gets it. I think he only missed it by maybe a half a yard. But at the same time, if you put Buckner in on 3rd and 2, that's exactly where I wanted to see him this game. And I think it's exactly what me and you have been preaching almost this entire season is if Cohn's gonna be your main guy, which is fine. I mean, look what he did today. He threw for nearly 500 yards, had 5 touchdowns. I mean, it's hard to blame put the game on him completely. I mean, there was definitely some moments in the second half where I think he was rattled a bit as a 5th-year senior, which you don't like. But there were some moments in today's game where I think Buckner would have provided not even just a spark, but just a different sort of look for the Oklahoma State defense. And I think that there's plays that you can point to where Notre Dame kind of did their, because Cohn's not running the ball when they do any sort of RPO or whatever you want to call it. And there were definitely some plays where it looked like if Buckner kept the ball or Cohn kept the ball, there was yardage there, and or just some other things that could have happened. And so they were not playing Buckner at least a couple snaps today was certainly flustering to me overall.
Yeah, and I don't know. I agree with that. At the same time, I'm not surprised though, because if you listen to Marcus Freeman, when as soon as he got the job as the head coach at Notre Dame, he started preaching about this isn't about the future. This is about this last game. This is about the guys, the seniors, the people who got us here, in that type of situation. And so, I immediately that sticks out to me just because when he said that, I immediately said, well, it'll be interesting to see if Tyler Buckner gets any snaps or not. I mean, I had that thought as soon as those words came out of Marcus Freeman's mouth. I mean, I was asked about it on another show where I was a guest this past week. Are we going to see Tyler Buckner? And I basically said, well, I don't know, because I think he's gonna ride or die with Jack Cohn because of of the things that he's given to this program, all the things that every coach has said. Tommy Rees coming out and saying that we underestimated Jack Cohn, and the praise for Jack Cohn was really high coming into this game. Let's put it that way. And so, I sort of thought, maybe in a spot or two, you might see Tyler Buckner and maybe even like a trick play, because that type of stuff seems to manifest itself in bowl games a lot. So I sort of thought maybe you'd see something like that, some sort of gimmicky this or that, or put him on the field at the same time, or whatever the situation was, But so, I'm a little surprised that 0 snaps, but I never really thought Buckner was going to get even a full drive at this point. It was probably like, a lot of people said this on Twitter, it was probably too late to change the game plan and put him in for a full drive at some point in this game. But I don't know. When you started to see Oklahoma State's defense start dropping 7 or 8 guys pretty much all the time, and then still Notre Dame can't run the ball, then you got to think to yourself, well, you just got to do something different. Even if it's calling a run play, or a pass play with Buckner in there, knowing that he can turn that into 5 or 6 yards, then maybe that's what you got to do. But I don't know. Like I say, that's something we won't have to worry about next year. I mean, we're not going to, Tyler Buckner is going to be the guy. And if he's not, it's Drew Pine, I guess. And still you get a little bit more of the running quarterback and that type of stuff. So I don't know. Like I say, we're splitting hairs and getting down to, like you said, you nailed you hit the nail on the head when you said hindsight is 2020. I know Notre Dame's coaching staff is going to go back and look at this and be like, well, if we did this, then maybe that, and all of this situation. But I don't know. Like I say, the rambling I think that I'm doing right now is just very indicative of the frustration of just being right there. And, like I mentioned earlier, just being right there and thinking, we could have got a monkey off of our back, didn't. But at the same time, this was more about the beginning of a new era than it was anything else.
And I do think the monkey off the back situation is a little bit less prevalent in today's college football world with opt-outs and stuff like that. I hate that excuse for losing a game, especially when you're up 28-7 with a little bit to go in the first half. But it's probably a different game if Kyron Williams and Kyle Hamilton are playing. Now, obviously, if Kyle Hamilton's playing, that means they're in a playoff game, because that was really the only opportunity he would have played. But it still would have been nice to see that for your secondary, because he's this so good in the secondary. I mean, it's incredibly fun to watch him play, and it was sad that we didn't get to see that over the last few weeks, and certainly in the bowl game as well.